Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar. My name is Lila. I am a full-time YouTuber and content creator, and I am very excited to be teaching you how to start editing your videos in Premiere Pro. Now, before I get into everything that we're going to learn today, it's a lot. Let me know what your favorite food is. I just had dinner, so I hope that I'm not going to get hungry again, but I love food. So just drop in the chat what your favorite food is, because why not, right? And there's a little bit of a delay with the chat. So as I'm waiting to hear about your favorite food, let me just explain what we're going to be talking about today, everything that we're going to be covering. So we have about 60 to 75 minutes, but let's be honest, it's going to be 90 minutes probably, because we have so much to cover. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to learn how to open a project. We're going to look at some settings. We're going to import our files. We're going to look at the workspaces and, how to customize your workspace if you want to. We're going to make our selections. We're obviously going to be editing our video, and then we're going to learn how to add music, how to add titles and animations. There's something really cool that I'm going to be showing you. And finally, I'm going to share with you how to export your video and how to export it for different kinds of social media platforms. So I hope that you're excited. Let me see. Hey Lila, hello. Okay, way to go, ready to go. Pizza, I like fruit, gumbo, meat, pasta, lasagna. I see that Italian food is pretty popular, as it should be. It's great. I'm actually getting a little bit hungry right now. I just had dinner. What is this? Okay, anyway, I don't want to talk for too long because, we have a lot to go over. So maybe we should just dive right in. Actually, one thing that I do want to say before we get started is if you have any questions at any point, the Adobe team is ready to answer your questions in the chat, and I will be looking at the chat every now and then. So feel free to ask us anything, and we're happy to help. So, well, with all that being said, give me a little thumbs up if you're ready for this live stream, if you're excited, and let's just get started. Okay, you should be able to see my my screen right now. It's the worst. I don't have a monitor. Like, I don't have a second monitor to see what I'm doing. So let's just hope that everything goes well. Okay. This is the window. So this is what you will be welcomed with when you open Premiere Pro. Here you will find all of your projects that you've already been working on. And then, in this case, we obviously want to start a new project. So right here, we see a button. I'm trying out this new zoom function that I've learned. Right now we have this button called New Project. So we just click on that. And then, boop, this will pop up. I just realized that I didn't put my headphones. I don't have my headphones with me. Whoopsie. So this is the window that you will see when you open a new project. So what we're going to do is we're going to do three things. There's a lot of settings right here. There is, we don't even need to look at all of that. The only things that we're going to be doing is we're going to change our name. So I'm going to be, what shall we do? I'm not sweating, you are. It's code red right here in the Netherlands. Like, I'm sweating already. This is a total disaster. And then I'm going to choose my location. So I'm going to click on browse. This is where we want to save our project. Now, as you can see, let me go back here. As you can see, I have a whole folder structure, file structure, and that is because organization is key when you start editing. There's multiple reasons for that, but obviously organization is always a good idea. So what I did is, as you can see, I have A roll, I have B roll, I have music, I have sound effects, assets, export. So this is where we will be finally saving our export. And then I have projects. Now, the reason why I have a folder for project is because if I open it, you can already see that there's a few folders in here. When you create a project, you do not just create a project file. You actually also create an Adobe Premiere Pro autosave and sometimes a video previews folder. So whatever it is, you want to make sure that you save everything in a project folder, because otherwise it's all going to be up here and it's just going to get messy really quickly. So I'm going to open up the projects folder and I'm going to say select folder down here. And then the last thing that we're going to do is the renderer. So if we take a look at the renderer, it says Mercury Playback Engine GPU Acceleration OpenCL. What? we don't need to know what it means. All we need to know is that we have a GPU acceleration selected. So if you're on Windows, it's OpenCL, and if you're on a Mac, I think it could be Metal or CUDA, which is CUDA. So whatever it is, just open the drop-down menu, and if you see a GPU acceleration, just click on that. And the reason why we want to use a GPU acceleration instead of software only is because software only is going to make Premiere Pro quite slow. So if you have the option, this is going to make it a lot better. Now, one more thing that I want to show you really quickly, because if I go back to Browse, this folder that I just talked about, right, the autosaves folder. If we go to Scratch Disks, I'm assuming that it looks the same for you. I'm assuming that it all says same as project. But if it doesn't, then I would recommend you to change the project autosave to same as project. Actually, all of them. Just change all of them to same as project, so it will all be in that one folder and it won't be scattered around on your computer. With all that being said, let's hit OK. And welcome to Premiere Pro. Let me quickly check the chat to see if anything. I see a lot of thumbs up. That's good. Teaches for music tracks. I'm going to be talking about music, so definitely just stick around. What else? I need to be more organized. Yeah. Oh gosh, I know. I feel the same way. Like what I just showed you is very organized and it's great. But I tend to, when I'm editing, I tend to get a little bit more messier. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just going to grab this logo. I'm just going to grab this and that. And then I import everything to Premiere Pro. And then, when I have to revisit a project like 3 months later, it's just so messy. I have no idea where I got certain assets from because I don't always put them in folders. So I totally get it. But please, please, please be as organized as you can because it's a real pain if you aren't. So let's continue. This is Premiere Pro. Now, what do we do? I still remember about like 2.5 years ago when I first opened Premiere Pro that I looked at this and I was like, okay, I just want to edit a video. What do I do? So what you do is, first of all, we're just going to be explaining or exploring the workspaces just a little bit, very briefly. So you kind of have an understanding of what everything means. And you feel a little bit more familiar with it. So up here, we have Workspace Presets. So this is basically your entire editing workflow. You have an assembly, which is where you could assemble all of your files and you could structure that. There's a fly. And then we have editing, where you obviously edit your video. Then we have a color workspace where you can do your color grading. We have effects, audio, where we can edit our audio, graphics, where we can edit or add animations, etc., etc. But what we're going to do is we're just going to stay in the editing workflow because the editing workflow offers, or workspace, not workflow, the editing workspace offers everything that we need. I think it's very easy to just get a little bit lost in Premiere Pro if you're just starting out by using all of these different workspaces. So let's just stick to the editing workspace. Now, if we take a look at the editing workspace, as you can see, there are 4 windows. There is a project bin, which is a project folder. All the files that you import into Premiere Pro, whether that is a video or a song or a sound effect or a logo, literally anything, your sequences, which are your timelines, everything can be found here. So this is the project bin. Now, if we go up here, this, as you can see, is the effect controls, which is where we will find all of the controls of any effects that we add to our video, which again, this will all make a little bit more sense once we start editing and once you actually see the files and the video. But then if we click here, this says source, as you can see. If we click right here, this is our source monitor. So basically how you should look at this is that this right here, these are your files or your sources. And if you want to preview any of those sources, you can look them up right here. You can just double click on them, which we will do in a second, and you can preview them right here. Now, if we go down here, this is our timeline, and a timeline in Premiere Pro is called a sequence. So everything that we are going to be editing will be down here. And then up here we have our program monitor, preview monitor, whatever you want to call it. Basically your entire edit you can view right here. And then there's one last thing, and that is right here we have our toolbar. Now these are all different tools that you can be using. Don't worry, we're just going to be using the selection tool and the cursor or the razor tool, and a little bit later the type tool. But we'll get there when we get there. If you want to know what any of these tools are, which is like Premiere Pro is actually way easier than you think. At first it's just so overwhelming because there are so many things and you kind of have to, you know, build up your workspace and your edit and stuff, but it's actually a lot easier because when, for example, I hover over this one, it says selection tool and it also gives me the shortcut. So if at any moment you want to know what something means or you want to learn the shortcut, you can just hover over it and you'll see it right here. So if let's say this is designed by the lovely people from Premiere Pro, from Adobe, they think that this is the best, or maybe not the best, but this is a great workspace to edit your videos in. But maybe you're just like, yeah, this doesn't work for me. Maybe I want this toolbox or toolbar, whatever you want to call it. Why isn't it moving? Here we go. Maybe you want that to be like right here. And then, you know, as you can see, you could also resize everything. You can make it bigger and smaller. And maybe we want our project files right here at the side. So that's a little bit big. Let's make that smaller again. Maybe this is the workflow or the workspace that you want to work in, and that is totally cool. But maybe you have been doing a little bit of, like, you've been customizing a little bit too much, and you're like, yeah, I actually liked the first workspace better, the default workspace. In that case, you can just let me zoom in. You can go to Window, Workspaces, and you can do Reset to Saved Layout. And that will bring you back to the original workspace that we just saw. Now, if you do really like your workspace and you want to work in this workspace every time that you make a video, then you can go to Window, Workspaces, and then Save as New Workspace. Now, with all that being said, I think it's time to start adding some files. So, how do we import our files? We import our files right here where it says Import Media to Start. So I'm just going to zoom out again. So what we need to do is we need to double click, and that will open up your Windows Explorer or your Finder if you're on Mac. And by the way, I am on Windows, in case anyone is wondering, I'm on Windows. And then we can just double click on a roll. I'm going to draw a box to select both of them. I'm gonna say open. And then, okay, double click on it again. I'm gonna go back. Now I'm going to open the B-roll folder. I'm going to draw a box and select all of those. And I'm going to, yes, okay. Now, do you remember that I said that we need to be really organized? This right now is very simple. There's not much going on. We could work with this, but it will get messy very quickly. So therefore, I recommend you to work with folders. And in Premiere Pro, those folders are called bins. Now, in order to create a bin, we can go down here. And right here, as you can see, it says New Bin. So if we click on that, and then I'm zooming out again, we can click on bin, and then we can say, okay, we're gonna call this 1A roll. Okay. Then what you can do is you can select those. If you want to select multiple files, just hit Shift on your keyboard, press Shift and hold it, and then bring that to the folder, and okay, and then you can do the same for B-roll. But we actually already created this entire file structure or folder structure on our computer. So instead of having to create folders and having to, you know, open every folder or every bin inside Premiere and adding all of those files, what we can do is, let me just delete all of this by selecting everything and pressing delete. We can go to our Window Explorer or your Finder, and we can actually select those bins that we want inside Premiere Pro. So that will be the A roll. I'm going to hold Shift down so I can select all three of those, and I'm going to drag that to Premiere Pro. I mean, everything is here now. We have our B-roll clips, we have our A-roll clips, Everything is already imported in the same folder structure, so you don't have to worry about any of that. It is super simple and super easy, and guaranteed that you're going to be way more organized now because the folders are already there for you. Now, let me quickly check the chats. How do you reset the workspace to the default one? Okay, let me show that again. So what you do is you go to Window up here, and then Workspaces, and then you can click right here on Reset to Saved Layout. Now again, by the way, if you open any of those windows, like I said, you can learn all the shortcuts super easily because they show you the shortcut for every, like in this case, every workspace. For a lot of settings, Premiere Pro will also show you the shortcut. And why are shortcuts so important? Because when you learn shortcuts, you will edit faster, you won't have to click anywhere unless you want that, like it's totally cool. But when you edit faster, it's also just a way more pleasant experience. So therefore, I really encourage anyone who's learning a new program to slowly incorporate some shortcuts, which is also what we will be doing in this webinar. So you can click right here on Reset to Save Layout. I hope that answered your question. Is there anything else? A-roll, I only knew about B-roll. Yeah, so let me just quickly explain the difference between A-roll and B-roll. A-roll is basically just talking head. Like this, if I were recording this right now as a video, this would be my A-roll. And in this case, these two clips right here, this is where I'm talking to the camera, that's considered A-roll. Now B-roll, if we go to B-roll, B-roll is basically that, as you can see, there are shots of my camera, and that is because in this video I'm talking about my camera. So let's just say that, you know, I just asked you what your favorite dinner is, so let's say it's pizza. So as I'm recording a video right now, I'm talking to you, and I am talking about I'm talking about pizza, about the time that I was in Italy and I had this amazing pizza. And while I'm saying those things, I play a clip of me in Italy, me enjoying the pizza. That is B-roll. Now on YouTube, people are using the term B-roll while it actually refers to a montage. So on YouTube, I am guilty of this as well. I am completely guilty of this. But on YouTube, when we say B-roll, we actually mean montage. But yeah, officially B-roll is just like supporting footage of whatever we're talking about. So next time that you're watching a documentary or even just a TV show or something, you will notice that they're using a lot of B-roll. I hope that answered your question. Okay, I think that I am all caught up now. That's great. So you may have seen that I am navigating through the bins or between the bins by clicking right here, right? Because anytime that you are inside a bin, I remember when I was first in Premiere Pro, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, how do I go back? Well, you can click right here on this folder right here, but there's also everything that you've opened so far. So all the bins that you've opened, you will find up here. So that is a very easy way of navigating through or between, I don't know what proper English is, but like through every bin, between or from one bin to the other bin. Let's just keep it like that. Now, as you can see, let me just go down a little bit. As you can see, this is our icon view. So this is where basically you'll see the thumbnails, and if I hover over it, I can just play through every clip and I can see what's happening in that clip, and that is just great, especially if you just quickly need to see what's going on in that clip, so you don't need to open it up in the source monitor. Now, when it comes to making actual selections, I always use the source monitor, but we will get there in a second. There's also two other ways of opening your, of viewing your files. And the first one is right here, it's list view. Let me open it up like this. And list view is something that I personally don't really recommend when you're editing, unless you use like very specified names for every file so you know what you're looking for. But right now I'm seeing these names and it doesn't make any sense to me, which is why I don't use the list view. So you may be wondering, why should I use the list view? Well, I use the list view when I need to know some metadata, and metadata is basically just the information of a video clip. So metadata are things like, as you can see, frame rate. If we go here, it's a video duration, so how long every video is. the size of the video. So this tells me that this is a 1080p video. It tells you the audio information. So that is when it comes in very handy. But overall, I personally am a big fan of using the icon view. Now there's also another view, and that is the freeform view. And the freeform view, let me just zoom out. The freeform view is basically like a storyboard, or if you're not familiar with storyboards, it's like a whiteboard or a memo board or something where you can just play around with the clips and you can just try to make it make sense. English is not my mother tongue, as you can hear. But yeah, so what I'm going to do is I am going to be opening this up and I'm going to make this full screen so I can show you what the freeform view is actually like. And I'm going to do this by, I've done my research this time. In my last webinar, I didn't know the name. I called it the Wave shortcut. It is the tilde shortcut. I think I pronounced it right. If I press that, if I have this, this window selected and I press that, as you can see, now we have this whole, like the whole screen is filled with just the bin. So with the freeform view, what you can see is, again, you can hover over it to see what's going on. And then you can decide, okay, maybe I want to start with this clip, followed by, yeah, that clip is good. Maybe, okay, this one, I want to start with this one and let's do it like this. So, of course, this is very simplified. We only have 4 clips, but if you're working on a bigger project or if you have different locations or whatever, and you want to try to figure out your story visually and you kind of want to organize everything visually, then this is really great. Just use the tilde key, I think I got it, which is like the little wave icon on your, or wave thingy on your keyboard, and that will make this whole thing full screen so you can just go wild and create your story. So I'm going to click, I'm going to tap, I'm going to press that again. So it's small again. Now let's open the icon view again. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to the project bin and we're actually going to create a sequence. Now, like I already said, a sequence is a timeline in Premiere Pro. And obviously we need a timeline in order to edit our video. So there's a few ways of creating a sequence. The first way is by clicking right here. Let me zoom in. Clicking right here on new item and then click on sequence. Or what you can also do is you can just right click on this window and then click on new item, sequence, and that will open up this window. Now, here you'll find a lot of sequence presets, and I definitely recommend you to use them. I still use the presets. I don't really see a reason why you wouldn't, unless you have very like specific settings that you need. But most of the settings and most of the presets you will find right here. So I'm going to use the 4K 16:9, 25 frames per second. If you're in the US or North America, you'll probably shoot in 23.976 frames per second. In Europe, which is my side, I am shooting in 25 frames per second. If you want to change anything, you can go to settings right here. And then right here, you can see that you can change your frames per second. So maybe you want to customize it and maybe you want to change it to 23.976. In this case, I'm going to stick to 25. And then here you can change the frame size, for example. So let's just say that, you know, if you want to make a video for Instagram and you want to create like a square video, you could change that right here. So what we would have to do is we would have to copy this number. So 2304. And now you will see that it says 1 by 1, which means that it is a square because the width is the same as the height. Now, in this case, we want 16:9, so I'm just going to enter this number again that we originally had. And then you have like a bunch of other settings, but you don't need to look at that. This is all good, so don't worry about it. Now, if you do want to save your sequence settings, maybe because you have an Instagram video, or maybe you make a lot of square Instagram videos, then you can just click right here on Save Preset, and then you can give it a name. I'm not going to do that right now, but then you'll find it right here, Sequence Presets. You'll find it right here in the custom folder. And then here, as you can see, I have a few custom presets. You will find it right there. Now again, I'm going to be selecting this one, 4K, 16:9, 25 frames per second. We can change our sequence name right here. So I'm gonna say, it's so hot today, I am sweating. I'm very creative, as you can tell. So then we're going to press OK. And now we have our timeline right here. See, now everything makes a little bit more sense than it did. Now, if, for example, you are filming your videos on a phone, and you have no idea what frame rate you're shooting in, or you have no idea what aspect ratio or what resolution you're shooting in, you're just like shooting videos and you just want to create a video. Well, in that case, what you can do is you can open up your real-time speed video, which I will explain in a second because I will be explaining how to slow footage down. But let's just say that we have clips where we're talking to the camera like this one or like this one right here. This is our real-time video. We do not want to slow this down or anything. What we can do is we can click on it, right-click on it. Let me first zoom in a little bit, right-click on it, and then click on New Sequence from Clip. When we do that, a new sequence will be created, and this will match all of the settings of that clip. So now you don't have to worry about any of the settings. So this is definitely good enough, but obviously since this is a webinar and I want to teach you some things, I do want to explain certain settings so you know what to do in case you're ready for that next step. So I'm going to close this one because we don't need it. So I'm also going to delete the sequence because we already created one. So I'm going to press delete on my keyboard. And now what I'm going to do is actually, I want to show you one thing. If I open up the list view, we can see that I actually didn't shoot this video in 25 frames per second. I don't know what went wrong, but apparently my camera was still set to 30 frames per second, or 29.99 to be exact. So we need to change our sequence settings. Now, if this happens to you, you don't have to worry. What we're going to do is we're going to go up here to sequence. Whoops, we need to have our sequence window selected, and then up to sequence settings, and then here we can change anything. So if at any point you need to change your sequence settings because maybe you made the same mistake that I did, then you can just choose your sequence, or you can just choose your new frame rate right here, hit OK, and now everything is adjusted. Nick Kaboom, thank you, Lila. Your videos are awesome. I've learned a lot. I have to get to work. Adobe should hire you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good luck at work. Let me see. Is there anything else? When you are setting up a new sequence, when you have sequence set to 24 frames per second, yeah, so Dylan, I will talk about that in a little bit because I think that is just a little bit further into the webinar, but we'll get to that. Yeah, so, or maybe I should just explain it right now. Why not? It depends on whether you're asking about slow motion, because that we will do in a little bit. But when it comes to, you know, matching or how do you say that? Using different frame rates, it's a little bit tricky because I am going to show you this later when we are working with slow motion, because then I can also visually show it instead of just talking about it right now. That doesn't really make any sense. Okay, so I'm sorry, Dylan. we'll get to that, I promise. So we have our, let me go back to icon view right here. So we have our A roll, and what we're going to do is we're just going to double click on it to open it up in the source monitor. Now, can we just appreciate this face for a second? I have the worst, I call them pause faces. They're the worst, but they're also pretty entertaining. So I've opened up my clip right here. This is the source monitor. So as you can see, if I just want to open a clip or a source, I can double click on it, and then I can just go through it like this, and I can just make my selections. However, when it comes to A-roll, I don't like to make my selections in here because I actually want to see the waveform, because the audio waveform tells me so much about how to edit my video. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to drag this clip, I'm going to drag it from here to the timeline. Now, you may see this. You may see clip mismatch warning. This clip does not match the sequence settings. Do you want to change it? No, we want to keep the existing settings because we have specifically dedicated these settings to our sequence, right? So we're just going to say keep existing settings. And the reason why it's giving this error right now is because, as you can see, it doesn't fit the frame. So we need to fix that. And there's a very easy way of fixing that. First, we need to click on our clip, and then we can go over here to, oops, what am I doing? To Effect Controls up here. Now I need to select my clip. This zoom feature that I'm using, I'm clearly not very good at it. So this brings me back to when I was first using Premiere Pro and I was super clumsy with it. I kind of feel the same way right now. Let me just do it like this. So we have our clip selected. Then we can go to Effect Controls, which is where you'll find all of the effects that you're going to add. And there's also some default effects right here, such as position, scale, there's opacity right here. And then here you'll find all of the audio effects if you're going to add any audio effects. So what we can do is we can click on motion right here, or we can decide to change the scale like so. We could also click on motion, and then you see these handles, and you could just try to fit it. Let's just say maybe this is good. But as you can see, if I zoom in, it doesn't fit. And what you can do is you can spend an extra few seconds trying to make it fit, but there's actually a way easier way. And that is by right-clicking on your clip and then click on Set to Frame Size. Now when we do that and we go up here, you'll see that it fits perfectly. So right-click, set to frame size, and you're good to go. Now the reason why I am doing this right now and not later is because when you cut up this clip, you would have to do that for every clip. There are a few ways to do it faster, but do it this way and you will not have any issues. Oh, the zoom feature is helping a lot though. It's nice. Well, I'm very happy to hear that, Twister. I'm trying my best with the zoom feature, but sometimes it's a little bit clunky or whatever. So we just have to work with what we got. So we have our clip on our timeline. This is our video part. So everything visually you will add here. So videos or logos or text or whatever, everything will be on this side. As you can see, there's a very thick line here. Let me zoom in. There's a very thick line. This is your video part. And down here, you will see your audio part. Now, if you want to zoom in on your timeline, you can use this right here. You can just drag it in to zoom in or drag it out. And if you want to learn a shortcut for that, you can use the plus sign to zoom in and the minus sign to zoom out. Now, I'm going to be zooming in. And what I'm also going to do is I'm actually going to make this audio track a lot bigger. Now, the way to do that is, as you can see, when I hover over it, you can just drag it down and make it bigger. And if you want to reset it, you can just double click and you're good to go. And you can also double click again to bring it to the default height. Big English is hard. So I actually want it to be a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger like this. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm just going to make this bigger so we can zoom in and everything is nice in frame. Okay, so why did I say that I like to look at the waveform? The waveform is telling me so much right now. As you can see, we can see, or you know, this will take a little bit of time. The more you edit, the more you'll get used to this, the more you'll be able to quickly identify patterns, because that is basically what it is. When you look at the waveform, you're just identifying patterns, and based on these patterns, you already know where to cut. You don't even need to play through your video. It is like this. Once you've got this down, you're going to be a super fast editor, and it's going to be saving you hours and hours and hours, especially if you're doing like interviews and stuff. This is going to be such a time saver. So right here, as you can see, this and this and this, as you can see, they're all the same. I am saying the same thing here as I'm saying here. Now, let me just play through this so that you can actually hear what I'm trying to convey. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. I hope you're doing well. In this video, I want to share with you reasons why I really love my vlog camera, the Sony a6600. I think that was good. Okay, let's do that one more time. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. I hope that... See, I'm doing the exact same, or I'm saying the exact same thing right here and right here. And I knew that because when I zoom in, I can see that this is the same as this and also the same as this. So we can just get rid of all of this because in my case, and probably the case for most people, the last take is always the best take. So I'm going to drag this playhead right here. I'm going to drag it to the beginning, as you can see, and then I need to make a cut. Now, in order to make a cut, let me zoom out again. In order to make a cut, you can click right here on the razor tool. And as you can see, it also says C, which means that the shortcut for the razor tool is C. So if we press C on our keyboard, and then we click right here, we can create a cut. Now, if you really want to level up, if you're ready to level up, let me just undo this by hitting Ctrl Z or Command C on a Mac. If you really want to level up, wherever you have your playhead, you can make a cut without having to click. You can hit Command K or Control K, and you've made your cut. Now, what I'm going to do to keep this very simple, I'm just going to be using the razor tool, but that's just a little tip if you feel like that could really help you out. So now we need to get our selection tool back. We need to get our cursor back. So we're going to press V on our keyboard, or you can click right here, and as you can see, it says V. So press V, and now we have our cursor back. So now we will not accidentally cut something. Now, if you do accidentally cut something, let me just enable the razor tool again. And let's say that we want to click on this clip, but we accidentally click on it, and now we have created a cut. We can enable the selection tool again, and then we can right click on this cut, or we can click on this cut, not right click. You can click on this cut, hit delete, and now your cut is gone again. So at any time, if you accidentally make a cut, you can of course use Ctrl Z or Command C to undo something, but you can also click on the cut and then hit delete. So now it is time to delete this clip. So what you can do is you can click on the clip, you can hit delete on your keyboard, and then you can zoom out, and then you can bring this all the way to the front, and then we would have to zoom in again, move to the front, put our playhead here. That's a lot of work. So what you can also do, I'm going to hit Ctrl Z or Command Z twice. So we're back to where we just started. What you can also do is you can click on this clip, right click on it, and then click on Ripple Delete. And now it's deleted, and that clip is moved all the way to the front. This is so much better. Otherwise, we would have to zoom out, zoom in, move around, a lot of work. And this way it is just done super easily. So now, as you can see right here, there is also a lot of space, right? So what you can do is you could hit C and then delete it. But you can also, if we hover over it, you can also see that you now get this bracket, this red bracket with an arrow. And that means that if we move it to this side, we can cut it and we're done. So that is also a great way of cutting footage. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, since we're working on a little like gear review video, obviously it's very simplified, it's very simple and easy, but what we're going to do now is we have our intro. So now we want some really cool shots of the camera that we're talking about. So I'm gonna go to B-roll. And I am going to first, let's see, what do we have? Let me just make this a little bit bigger now. We have this one, we have this. Yeah, I want to start with this one. So as you can see, I'm hovering over it to preview it really quickly. I'm going to double click on it so I can preview it in the big monitor, in the big source monitor. And then again, same goes for this. Usually for me at least, the last cut or the last take is the best take. So I'm just going to go, yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm just going to want to make my selection here. Now, if you want the entire clip, if you don't want to make a selection, you can drag and drop, you can just click on the screen, drag and drop it to the timeline, and you would have your entire selection. Maybe you want to make a selection, which is what we're going to be doing, because all of this, again, the beginning of it, it's totally, we don't need it. It's garbage. We don't need it. So we need to make a selection. And in order to make a selection in Premiere Pro, you need to create an in point, which is your start point, and an out point, which is your end point. By the way, did you see that? I'm sorry for interrupting. My project just got auto-saved, and I really need to show you this, because if you go to Edit, Preferences, and then Autosave right here, I want you to do this right now. Just stop whatever you're doing. Go to Autosave. And then you want this to be checked, automatically save project. And then you can say, I want this every 15 minutes, or I want this every 5 minutes, whatever. Because our computers, even though we love them, they're not always super reliable. It could be that your computer crashes or that something messes up. So you want to make sure that you have your projects saved automatically. Now, I'm just going to keep it like this because we do not want the project to be saved every 5 minutes during the webinar. So I'm just going to hit cancel. Okay, so what was that? Well, okay, yeah. So we want to create our in and our out points. So you can click on this button right here to create our in point, and then we can move and we can create this. We can click on this button right here, this one right here, to create our out point, or we could press O on our keyboard. Now we've made a selection. As you can see, this highlighted bit right here, this is our selection. That's all that we're going to be using. So in order to bring that to our timeline, we could again just drag and drop it if we want the video and the audio. What we can also do is we can actually just drag the video only or the audio only. And in this case, we just want the video. So I'm just going to, as you can see right here, we have the video only. Again, like I said, Premiere Pro is so much easier than you think because they tell you what everything is. So if I just hover over this, it says drag audio, video only. That's exactly what I want. So I'm going to zoom out again, and I'm just going to drag that to the timeline to about right here. Now, there's also some shortcuts for this. So let me just quickly show you the shortcuts in case you want to know those. There is a shortcut that will insert a clip, and there is a shortcut that will overwrite a clip. So if, for example, for demonstration purposes, we have our playhead right here. You want to be mindful when you use this shortcut, because if I say, okay, I want this clip to be on the timeline, right? I want it to be inserted, but I do not necessarily want it to be inserted right here. If we press comma, which is the same on Mac and Windows, it will be inserted right in the middle of when we're speaking, and that is not what you want. So I'm going to hit Ctrl-Z again. Now, we want it, let's say that we want it to be inserted right here, right? We could go, let me just zoom in so you can see it better. We could go and try to find that last, like, is it right here? I don't know. So what you can actually do, zoom out again, what we can actually do is we could hit the up and the down arrow on our keyboard, and that will bring us to the first frame if we use the up arrow, and if we use the down arrow, we will go to the exact last frame. So now if we hit comma, now let me just click here, if we hit comma, it will be inserted right here, and we will not cut any of those other clips. I'm going to hit Ctrl-Z again, because if you want to overwrite your clip, then you use period. So let's say that we want to overwrite this last bit, I can hit period, and now it is overwritten. So to visually show that a little bit better, let's do it in the middle of the clip. I'm going to hit period. As you can see, now it's overwritten. Now we just lost a bit of it. So the comma, that kind of like splits it up and moves it to the back. But in this case, it's just overwritten and we just lose that little bit. So make sure that when you use these shortcuts, they're super useful and I use them as well, but you do want to make sure that you use the up and down arrows so you don't accidentally overwrite something or insert something where you don't want it to be inserted. So now we have our first clip. Now, this clip is pretty cool, if I may say so myself. As you can see, it goes from being in focus, too blurry, but as you can see, again, it doesn't fit the frame at all. So again, we're going to right click on it and we're going to set it to frame size. So now it is automatically set to fit the frame. And now, as you can see, we have this clip. But my intention with this clip was to have it reversed. I actually wanted to reverse it. So in order to do that, and also this video clip, if we go to B-roll and if we go to the list view, this video clip is shot in 100 frames per second because I want to slow this down. So what we're going to do is, what we can do is we can right click on it and then click right here on speed and duration, or we can click on the clip, make sure that it's selected and hit Ctrl R or Command R. That will bring up this window right here. And now we can change the speed. So, you know, we have a timeline that's like 30 frames per second. This clip is like 100 frames per second. So let's just slow it down and let's say 30%. Now, to explain how slow motion works, when you have your, let's just say that our real-time clips, like me talking to the camera right now, is 25 frames per second. If we want to slow a clip down, it needs to have more frames than that, because if we're going to slow down a regular speed clip, so 25 frames per second, it's going to look very, very choppy. Let me just show you what that looks like. I'm just going to mute this entirely. We will go over the volume settings in a little bit, but just for demonstration purposes, I want to show you what that would look like. Let's say that we slow this down and we say 30%. This is what a real-time clip looks on a timeline that matches the frame rate of that clip. Do you see how jittery that looks? It just doesn't look good. And that is why when you have a higher frames per second, you can stretch out that clip, because all of those, when you have 25 frames per second, if you stretch that out over 2 seconds, you would have a frame, no frame, frame, no frame, frame, no frame. But if we shot in 50 frames per second, we have double the number of frames. So that means when you stretch that 1 second out over 2 seconds, where with 25 frames per second, there isn't a gap between those frames, which are basically just like pictures, they're all like still pictures, you would have those extra frames, and now you can slow it down by 50%, so you can make 1 second, 2 seconds, and it will look very smooth. So I'm going to delete this clip again. I'm going to hit delete. So if we go back to this clip, if I'm going to hit Ctrl R, and I'm going to slow this down by 30%, you will see the difference. Now this is smooth, right? That looks a lot smoother. But like I said, I actually wanted to reverse the speed of this one, because I wanted to start here and I wanted to end here. Now this is a little bit more advanced, but I just want to give you some extra little nuggets, you know, because in case you want to level up quickly, or you're ambitious, or you're like ready to go, you know, I just want to give you a few extra tips. So we're going to open up the speed and duration window again by pressing Ctrl R. And then we can go here, and as you can see, it says reverse speed. So if we click on that, and then we click on OK, now we've just created this. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? Now, one more thing that I want to show you, which actually reminds me, because as you can see, the framing is terrible. Another little hack that I want to show you is if you go to Effect Controls, and you go to scale, if you up the scale a little bit and you just change the position right here, so we have our scale and our position. If we change the position, it will look like you are a way better composer than you actually, like honestly, if we look at this clip, I think that this clip could use a lot of work as well, because, you know, I shoot with a camera that doesn't have a flippy screen, so I'm not really sure sometimes what it looks like. So what I can do is, I don't like this, so I'm just going to up the scale a little bit, and I'm just going to reposition it a little bit, and now this looks a lot better. So those are just little hacks that you can do when you're editing that isn't super advanced, but it's just like something that will make your video look a little bit better. It's so great. A lot of people say, let's fix it in post. Don't fix everything in post, but this you can definitely fix in post. Now, Let me just move that to the front. I want to start it right here. So again, I'm hovering over it. So I see this bracket with the arrow, and I'm just going to do it like this. Now, what you can also do actually is you can actually ripple delete something. Like what we just did was we right clicked on it and we hit ripple delete, right? What you can also do instead of doing this, now in this case, it's not really an effort, but if you do want to edit a lot quicker, you can actually right click on this and then click on ripple delete. So now you want to do this for the other clips as well. So if we go here, we can do this for the other clips as well. So let's just quickly double click on this one. Let's just play through it. Okay, that's cool. I'm going to make my start point by hitting I on my keyboard. And then, okay, I actually want my start point to be here. And then my end point to be right here. So I'm going to press O. And I'm going to move that right here. And then let's do this one. Let's hit I to get our start point and O to get our end point. And we're going to put that on a timeline as well. Now, as you can see, again, doesn't look great. Let's just right click on it and hit on set to frame size. Right click on this one, set to frame size. And if you find yourself using something a lot, so for example, the set to frame size, if you find yourself using that a lot, then what you can actually do is you can create a shortcut for that. Again, shortcuts, they're the best. Definitely try to use them as much as you can and learn them as much as you can. So in order to create shortcuts, what you can do is let's zoom in and go up. You can go to edit and then right here you'll see keyboard shortcuts. And again, you'll see the shortcut for keyboard shortcuts. And then right here you will find all of the shortcuts. So if you want to create a shortcut, set to frame size in this case, because we've been doing that a few times, you can create your shortcut right here. And as you can see, I have created a shortcut Control B because normally there isn't a shortcut for this. Now, if you forgot a shortcut, then you can just type it in right here. So let's just say that we forgot the shortcut for, let's see, speed, right? Speed and duration, what we just did. You can type in speed and right here it will show you the shortcut. So this is also really great if you are learning shortcuts and you forgot a shortcut, just go right here to edit, go to keyboard shortcuts and then type it in here so you can learn more shortcuts. Okay, let me see. Is there any questions? I don't see any questions. So let's just continue. So in this case, what we want to do, so these two are done, but we also want to slow these two down. Now again, we can use the speed and duration, so we can, but what I'm actually going to do, which is a little bit quicker, is if you draw a box over the two, so you have both of them selected, hit Ctrl R to open up the speed and duration window, and then say 30. And now we have simultaneously created two slowed down clips. So now, as you can see, this one is slowed down and this one is slowed down. Now, I already showed you that you can just right click on this and you can hit ripple delete. But when you have gaps like this, and if you have multiple gaps, then what you can also do is you can go to sequence and then right here it says close gap. Now this may be too much, but again, just want to give you a few little extra nuggets so you can get awesome at Premiere Pro really quickly. Okay, so now that we have this will be like our little intro. Then lastly, we have our clip right here. This is the next clip. And again, you know, based on the sound wave, you know, or the waveform, I can see I am saying the same thing, so I can cut it right here. But I also want to hurry up a little bit, so I've actually created another project. So I'm going to be opening that one up right now so we can continue, because basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to be repeating the same steps. I'm going to cut it here. One more thing that I will show you when it comes to making YouTube videos, what's really important is your pacing. On YouTube, every like 5 to 8 seconds, you want to give your audience something new so they keep watching your videos. So one thing that a lot of YouTubers, myself included, do, and again, if you create like documentaries or something, then this is not really relevant. But if you want to create social media content, one thing that we do is we cut out all of our breaths. So let me just zoom in. And a breath is very easily detectable. You can very easily see that because if I zoom in like so, those little bumps right here, those are breaths. And if you don't believe me, let me show you. A flippy screen, and wait, let me just zoom out so you can also see what's happening. And I feel like it compares to the A7 III, although the A7 III is a full frame camera and this is a... So again, what you would do is you would just cut this out. I'm just going to show you like so. I would just, of course, I wouldn't do it this roughly, but you can just cut it out. You can also just hit ripple delete like so, or what you can do is you can select this clip and hit shift delete on your keyboard, and now we've also ripple deleted it, and now those breaths are out, and now you're good to go. Now, like I said, I've already prepared another project because, you know, we've already been doing this for an hour and there's so much more that I want to show you. So let me just quickly go and open that project. And in the meantime, I will also see what you are up to. Lila is a great resource for... Oh, thank you. Are you gonna go over some transitions between clips? Yes, I will be showing that, so don't worry. We will get there almost. We are almost there, actually. Okay, Okay, I'm good. So... let me go back to the screen. All right, it is time to add music because, you know, we have, or time to edit our audio in general. What you see in a lot of YouTube videos or just videos and movies, you know, music is a great resource. It really helps you tell a story. And in this case, it will really make this little intro that we have a lot better because right now we have no music and it will just make everything a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Window up here and I'm going to open up the Essential Sound panel. Now, what you can do is you can actually open up the audio workspace right here and you'll get like a bunch more features, but you don't need that when you're just getting started. So the only thing that you need is the Essential Sound panel right here. So as you can see, right now we are in the Edit tab. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to be editing our audio. So right now we have these two clips, which are audio clips or dialogue clips. So when we select them both, as you can see, what I did was I drew a box. What you can also do is you can click on this, hold shift, click on the other clip, make sure that all of your dialogue clips are selected. And then right here, we want to assign a tag. When we assign a tag, as you can see, we have a few options. We could, for this one, let's just, first we have loudness. So we could change we could say auto match. So both of the audios or the audio of both clips are matched. And I cannot see it. What we can also do is we can go and click on repair, which is what we're going to do, because if you listen to this, so I hope that you're doing well. In this video, I want to share 5 reasons. No, I cannot hear it because I don't have my headphones, but I know what's going on in the video clip, thankfully. So what you can hear is that there is a little bit of reverb, right? In my room, it's not sound treated. It sounds horrible in here. So if we go to repair, there is a few options. We can reduce the noise, rumble, if you have anything like that going on. But in this case, we want to reduce the reverb. So I'm going to tick this and then let's have a listen. And as you can see, I have both of the clips selected. So now it is applied to both of those clips, so I don't have to do it individually. And again, I did that by clicking on one clip and then hitting shift and clicking on the other clip. Reasons why you should be getting the A66. Let me just start again from here. So I hope that you're doing well. In this video, okay, let's uncheck this. Video, I want to share 5
Do you hear the difference?
Why you should be getting the A66. And then of course you can fine tune it to make it sound really good. There's tons of options here to enhance your audio. Now that we've done this, and now that we've told Premiere Pro that these are dialogue clips, let's add our music. Now, when it comes to music, Adobe or Premiere Pro actually has a really neat feature, and that is right here. If we go to Browse in the Essential Sound panel, we'll have a lot of songs. Now, all of these songs are from Adobe Stock. Adobe Stock is a stock website from Adobe, and they do not just have songs, they also have video, they also have They also have animations, they have photos. It's a great resource. But in this case, they have a lot of cool music. So what you can do is, as you can see, there is a few filters. There is the mood right here, where you can choose a mood. You can choose a genre, and here you have a filter where you can choose the tempo. BPM is beats per minute. So if there's a lot of beats per minute, that means that it's really fast, and otherwise it's just, if it's a slower song, there will be less beats per minute. And here you have the duration and some audio partners. Now, Epidemic Sound and Gemenjo, they're both really great. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to close this. And what I want to do for this clip specifically, or for this video that we're creating specifically, is actually, I don't know if you watch a lot of YouTube, and if you do, you've probably seen this. When it comes to like gear reviews and, you know, even like coffee montages, people like to use that really epic, like rock music. So why don't we do that? So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to go to mood. Let me see. And I'm going to say, okay, I want something that's angry, and I want something that's epic. What else do we have? Let's say powerful. We feel powerful today. Let's do that. And then for genre, obviously we want rock. So let's say rock, and then we go to filter. And okay, I don't want something that's slow, but I also don't want it to be too fast. So let's do this and this. Honestly, just play around with it. There's no right or wrong. Duration, I don't need something that's 20 minutes. Let's just go here. And then let's see, let's do Epidemic. I love Epidemic, so let's just say Epidemic. Obviously, you can just choose from all the songs. But okay, let's see, what do we have here? So as you can see, again, there's waveforms, and this is so useful, which is why I would really encourage you to, every time that you're editing, to not just watch the entire clip and just cut it when you hear that you're making a mistake, but actually look at the waveform when you're doing this, because the more that you learn the waveform and reading waveforms, the better of an editor you will become, and the quicker you'll become a better editor. So here you'll see the waveforms, and what this is showing you is that this video, no excuses, it just like, it jumps right through the door and it's there. Now, what we want, or what I want for this video, is I think it would be cool if we could introduce the song, like, let's just say right here or at the beginning of the video, and then once this hits, this is where the epicness comes in, you know? So we have like a little teaser right here, and then this is where the epicness comes in. So what I'm going to do is, I think maybe this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my playhead right here, because this is really cool about using the essential sound panel and using Adobe Stock. Because if I'm going to play through if I'm going to hit play here, you can actually audition the song. So when I hit play, it will start playing right where I put my playhead on the timeline. So let me just zoom in a little bit. So let's say that I want the song to start right here, right? I can hit play. I hope that you're doing well. In this video, I want to share 5 reasons why you should be getting the A6600. Now, obviously the timing is a little bit off, but it's really cool to be able to audition your songs, or like try out your songs before dragging them on your timeline. So I like this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it to my timeline. And now it's on my timeline. So now what I want to do is I actually want to make this track bigger, and I want to answer one question. Yes, I will be covering transitions between clips. I'm actually going to, when I'm doing my title, I'm going to be showing you how to do transitions, because I want to add a transition to the title, and it works the exact same way between clips. So I'll definitely get to that. So now we have our music track, right? So I'm going to zoom in. And what I'm going to do, now there's a lot when it comes to editing music, but I want to keep it simple and I want to keep it quick. So what we're going to do is right here, you'll see a drop. So I'm actually going to cut the song right here. I'm going to hit V again. So I hit C to get my cut tool, V again to get my selection tool back. I'm going to click on this and hit delete. And then I'm just going to move it like this. Now, Again, I cannot hear the song right now, but I think that this is pretty good. The timing is probably pretty good. Now, if I play through this, let's just do that. It's really hard to hear me right now. It's really hard. I am competing with the music because the music is really loud. So what we can do is we can grab this line, which is our volume line, and we can just drag it down so we can hear me. But then what happens? Getting the A6600. Now it's too low. So what do we do? Well, there's another really neat feature that I really want you to start using. Let's just hit Ctrl Z to go back to our default volume. And now click with the music track selected. We're going to go to Edit. And then we're going to say to Premiere Pro, this is a music track. So now we'll get a few settings that are based on music. And right here, you'll see ducking. Now let's select that. What ducking means is that, you know, in this case, we're talking and we want the music to be ducked. We want the music to be lower. And then when there is no talking, when I'm quiet, we want the music to be louder. And then when I start talking again, we want to duck it again. Now this feature is super useful for this. So right here, you'll see duck against. And as you can see, we can say that we want to duck it against dialogue or music or sound effect or ambient sounds or audio clips that we haven't assigned a tag to. But in this case, what we just did was we assigned it to dialogue clips, right? This is dialogue. We assigned dialogue tags to this. There we go. So Premiere Pro knows that this is dialogue. So we can say, okay, we want to duck it against dialogue. Now, before I do anything else, I'm just going to generate keyframes to show you what this feature does, and then I'll explain what this does so we can customize it a little bit. All right, now let me zoom in on the timeline so we could really see what's happening. So we just created, we just said to Premiere Pro, generate keyframes. We told you what the dialogue clips are. We told you what the music clip is. Fix this for us. We don't want to do this. We don't want to deal with this. Just do this for us. And this is what it did. It recognizes that this is where our dialogue clip stops, and so it knows that this is where we want the music to be louder. And then again, this is where the dialogue clip starts again, so this is where it will be lowered. But now, you know, now it's just if we play through this again. I don't think the timing is really great this time because I cannot hear it, but we just have to go for it. But 6600. When this clip starts, that's where we want the music to be loud again, right? So we want this transition to be a lot faster, and we want this to be lower because now it's still pretty loud. So what we can do is we can click on our music track, and then we could say, and this is again, Premiere Pro is so much easier than you think, because when we hover over this, it will tell us exactly what it does. So this says define the amount of ducking that is done to the clip. So that means that if we want the music to be even lower, then we have to add more. Now, if we want the fades, which are the transitions, we want that to be faster. So it already says fast, so I know that I have to drag it to this side. And then I can hit generate keyframes, and it will generate new keyframes in a second. And as you can see, now it will move way quicker, and this is basically at the end, you will end up with something like this. Should be getting the A6600. Now, as you can see, I also cut it right here. Don't be afraid to edit your music, but that could be an entire different webinar. So what I did was I just made it fit the video a little bit better, because otherwise it would be way too epic for way too long when I'm talking. But again, that could be an entire different webinar. So let me see. I have spent the last 5 hours doing manual ducking on a couple videos. Whoa, so much work for just that. Yes, Yes, there is so many like little nuggets. That's the thing with Premiere Pro. Like Premiere Pro, when you're just starting out, there is so much to learn. There's like hidden feature. Like I am still learning a lot about Premiere Pro myself, but there's just so many options. So chances are, just like with the audio ducking, and what we're going to be seeing in a second is if you want to transform this video into an Instagram video or a TikTok, you can do that with just one click. So there are so many options in Premiere Pro. So good for you for all just switching or using Premiere Pro. And I'm happy that that tip helped. That makes me happy. So now that we've added our audio and our music track, what we're going to do is we are going to color correct it and color grade it. Now there's a difference between color correction and color grading. I don't want to go into it like with too much detail, but basically those two terms are used interchangeably, although they're completely different things. Color correction is key. You need to do that for almost every video. Color grading is more like adding a look and a feel to your video. So adding certain colors to convey something. So if it's a sunny day, you may want to up the temperature. You want to make it look a little bit more orangey. That would be color grading. Color correction is really making sure that your clips, the exposure of your clips is accurate, that the colors of your clips are accurate, and after that you would color grade. So let me just click on this clip. I am going to close the Essential Sound panel by closing it like so. So I'm clicking on the little, what do they call it? I think like the hamburger menu or something. Since we're talking about food, the hamburger menu, if you click on that, you can close the panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the color workspace. Now, this will open up, and what we're going to be looking at, it's a little bit scary at first, but it's actually really, really easy. Now you may be thinking, you may be looking at this right here, at this, and you may be thinking, Lila, I thought that this was a webinar for beginners. What are you doing to us? It is easier than it looks. So give me a chance. I hope you trust me. I think that I can explain this in a way that it will make total sense and that you will feel comfortable using this. So let's first look right here. This panel, as you can see, if we, oh my gosh, okay. If we zoom in, you can see that there's different panels, right? We have a basic correction, we have a creative tab, we have curves with, let me zoom out again, with so many different curves that do so many different things. Don't worry, we will not touch any of that. And then we have color wheels, we have so many options. But what we are going to do is we're just going to do a basic correction. So we're going to click on basic correction. And before we do anything, this is where the Lumetri scopes come in. So when it comes to color correction, the reason why we need to use those scopes is because we cannot always trust our eyes. And it's not that our eyes aren't good, it's because of the condition that we're editing in. Maybe, you know, the lighting in your room can really influence how you see a certain frame and the colors that you see. Could also be that your monitor is not accurate and it doesn't really display the colors accurately. So maybe you're editing, you're just looking at your frame, you're editing and you think, oh man, this looks good. You save it, you export it, you put it on YouTube, or you send it off to a client, and the next day you get a message and they're like, something is off about the colors. And then you check it on your phone because you're on your phone, you got the email, you're like, oh my gosh. So you check it on your phone and you're like, what happened? That's why you cannot trust just your eyes, because the monitor may not be calibrated properly. So therefore we have these two scopes right here. Now maybe this looks very different for you. Let me just go to preset, and let's say that this is what it looks like for you, right? If you right click on it, you can actually choose a preset, or you can say this one right here is a parade. So we can uncheck that. Whoops, sorry about that. This one is a parade. So you can uncheck that. And then we have this one and this one. But what you just saw is that this one, my waveform was white. So I'm going to right click on it again. And then waveform type, I'm going to choose Luma. And then this is the Vectorscope YUV, this one right here. Now, the reason why we're using these two scopes is there's so many more scopes that you can be using, and I'm just using these two because they get the job done for me, and I think that this is pretty much all you need when you're just starting out. And 2.5 years later, this is still what I use. I don't use any of the other scopes. So this right here is the Vectorscope YUV, and it's basically just a circle with all the colors of the rainbow in it. So this white blob right here, let me zoom in. This white blob right here represents the colors of our video. So if we take a look at our video, it says that, you know, it's pretty balanced, because what you want is you want this white, I wish I had a better name for it, this white blob to be like right in the middle, like right here. So I think it looks pretty good. And as you can see, there's a little bit of blue right here. And it makes sense, because when we look at this clip, you can see that there's little hints of blue everywhere, basically. But it looks pretty good. Now this is the waveform Luma, and Luma stands for exposure or brightness of your video. So what you want is you want this all to be distributed evenly. Now one thing that you can see is right here, on the top it's the highlights, and at the bottom right here, this is where the shadows and the blacks are. Now what you can see up here is this white, like it's just all like pushed to the ceiling, right? And that is because my window right here is blown out. I didn't do a good job exposing this shot. So that is what you see right here. Now you could say, okay, we can just fix that, right? We can just lower the highlights. The issue is, first of all, the clip will not look good. Second of all, when it's clipped like this, you cannot recover it anymore. It's done, the data is gone. So, you know, you always want to make sure that your video is exposed properly. But again, personally, I don't mind this, because for privacy reasons, it's not a bad idea that people cannot see what's outside of your window, right? So in order to fix this, we now know how this works, right? We want to make sure that this is all like distributed evenly. I think it's done a pretty good job. And we also want to make sure that this is right in the middle. So we could say that, okay, maybe we need to add a little bit of green, just a little bit, just. And this is where you do not just want to look at the Vectorscope, because if I look at the Vectorscope, I would say, okay, this looks good. But honestly, this looks a little bit too green. So I'm actually just going to move it to about here. And the reason, and I know this is so contradictory, right? I just said, don't trust your eyes. And here I'm saying, don't just look at the Vectorscope. What do we need to do? Well, we need to trust the Vectorscopes, but we also want to look at our clip and make sure that the colors and the changes that we're making actually make sense. Now, let's take a very easy example. Let's say that we're in a park, we're shooting a clip in a park, and we have trees and we have grass, everything is green. So what you would see, let me just for demonstration purposes, move this all the way to the green, you would see that there's a lot of data in this green area, right? Now, if you would just look at the Vectorscope, you would think that you would have to add a lot of magenta to make that look good. Will it look good? No, because grass and trees, they need to look green, right? That is what they need to look like. So that is why it's always important that when you're looking at the Vectorscopes, you're also kind of making sure that everything in your frame makes sense. Let's see if there is any questions so far. How do you get the Lumetri scopes to show up? Good question. So, like I said earlier in the webinar, I'm sorry, by the way, if I'm looking very awkwardly down, but that's where I have my iPad. So, like we did earlier, for the workspaces, you can go right here and then you have the workspaces. But you also, like we did, we also had the essential sound panel right here, and you also have the Lumetri scopes right here. So if you open up the color workspace, as you can see right here, the color workspace, it should by default be here. It could be that you're either on the source monitor or the effect controls, but it should be, okay, but it should be right here. Now, if it isn't here, then go to Window. This is a little bit trippy. Go to Window and then make sure that you click on Lumetri scopes right here, and that is how they will show up. Now again, if you want to customize the Lumetri scopes, right click on them, and then make sure, if you follow this webinar, make sure that you have the Vectorscope YUV and the Waveform Luma. And if your waveform says something different, if it doesn't say Luma, go to Waveform type and make sure that you have Luma selected right here. So, okay, so we have already changed our tint, right? So obviously we have our temperature, which is cool to warm, and tint is green to magenta. Now down here we have our tone, and this is where you will be adding or changing your exposure and just the overall brightness. So you could lower the shadows if you want to, you could do anything like that. So this works with this one, and these two work with this one right here. Now, if you're just starting out, there's a lot to learn. Like color grading, color correction, it's a science. It is, I don't want to scare you, it's definitely not that difficult. I hope you can already kind of tell that it's not that difficult. But when you're just starting out, you have so much to learn that it can be a little bit overwhelming. So actually, Premiere Pro has this button right here, the auto button. So if we click on that, it will automatically change the exposure for you. Now, sometimes it gets this right in one go. Like right now, I'm pretty happy with this. I think that this looks pretty good. And sometimes it doesn't look that good. So what I would recommend you to do is to use this auto button as a suggestion and then just change it a little bit more and fine tune it to make it look really good. Now, if you don't like it, you can press right here on reset. But I actually quite like this. So now we have color corrected this clip, but now we have to color correct this clip too. So what we can do then is we can click on this clip right here. We can go to Effect Controls. We could go right here to Lumetri Color. And then we can hit Ctrl-C to copy it. And then we click on this other clip and then hit Ctrl-V. And now, as you can see, the Lumetri color effect is applied. So now both of them are done. Now, obviously, this is a very simplified edit. We only have 2 clips. What if you have multiple clips? Let's just take these 3 clips, for example. So we have these 3 clips. And we want to color correct and color grade all of them. We want to also add a look to this, for example. So what we can do is we can color correct one, and then what we just did, copy it in copy the Lumetri color, and then go to the second clip, paste it, third clip, paste it. But then if you want to fine tune it, you would have to go to Effect Controls. You would have to delete all of those Lumetri color effects and add the new Lumetri color effects. That's a lot of work. So there's actually a little trick that I want to show you. If we go, let's just go to Projects and go to Assets. If we go to Assets and if we go down here to New Item, we can make an adjustment layer. Now, maybe if you've watched some tutorials on YouTube already, you may have heard about this already. If we click on that and we right here, just hit OK. It always matches your sequence settings. We can just drag that onto our timeline. And then if we want to make this bigger, we could, again, we could hover over the edge and then just move it and make it as big as we want. In this case, we just want to cover these 3 clips. Now, this is a transparent layer. So anything we add to the adjustment layer will be applied to all of the 3 clips. And in this case, if we don't like something, we can just delete the adjustment layer and we're good to go. We do not have to go and manually adjust every single clip. So let's just say that just for demonstration purposes, let's just go to creative. And in this case, we want to add a look or a LUT. And if you don't know what a LUT is basically a video filter. If you've ever uploaded a photo on Instagram, you've probably seen that there is photo filters, right? You can make your photo look a little bit better with certain colors, which are photo filters. LUTs are basically video filters. So what you can do is you can either, if you bought LUTs from someone or a store or something, you can click on this drop-down menu and then you can click on Browse. Or what you can do is you can go and use any of the built-in looks that are provided by Premiere Pro. So if we click on this little arrow right here, we can just browse through them. And let's just say that we like this one. We can click on it to apply it. Make sure that you have your adjustment layer selected right here so you don't accidentally apply it to just that clip. And then what you can do is, which I really recommend, is to change the intensity. You can just change the intensity by just moving it. I always like to add just a tiny bit. And if you want to reset a slider, you can double tap or double click, and then you've resetted your slider. Now let's say that we like this, for example. And then now, as you can see, it is now applied to all of the 3 clips. And if I delete this, Now it's gone. That is just a way easier way of color grading and color correcting. So if you want to use like a unified look, if you want to give your video a unified look, then definitely use an adjustment layer. Now, one more thing that I want to show you is, for example, let's just take this clip and let's say that we want to add that same look. I think it was this one. Let's click on it. Whoop. Okay. Now let's just add like just a tiny bit, and then we go to this clip. What if let's just pretend that this clip looks way different. It was shot in like with a different camera or whatever, and we want to match this one with this one. So we want to match the colors, right? What we can do is we can go right here to color wheels and match right here, and then we can open up the comparison window. Actually, before we do that, we want to make sure that we have our frame that we want to match. Again, a great pause phase. Brilliant. And then we're going to go to the right here to the time code. We're going to click on it. And then we're going to hit Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac to copy it. Then we're going to go to this clip that we want to match it with. We're going to open up the comparison view. And the reason why we just copied that time code is because now we can just click here. We can paste it, Control V or Command V. And now we have that exact frame that we want to match it to, right? So as you can see, it already looks pretty good. I don't think that, no, I didn't add it accidentally, so that's good. But maybe let's just make this one, I'm going to go and I'm going to intensify it a little bit. Why is this? Oh, wait. Yeah, all right, I'm sorry. I confused myself for a second, but it was because my playhead was here, which is why this one changed as well. So now, as you can see, this one looks a little bit more dramatic and we want to match this. What we can do is in the color wheels and match, make sure that you have face detection selected and click on Apply Match. Now I need to give Premiere a second to match the colors, and as you can see, the colors are pretty well matched. Now what you can do is you could change the midtones or the highlights, which are these parts, and the shadows, which is this, for example, the dark parts of your video. But it looks pretty good. Now, obviously, in this case, it wasn't really necessary because we have because these clips are basically the same, so we could just use the same settings. But I just wanted to show you how you could color match videos, which is super useful if you're shooting, for example, with different cameras. Let's see, do we have another question? How do you get the Lumetri? I already answered that one. Yeah, by the way, if at any point, let me just move my light a little bit. If at any point you want to see the before and after, let me close the comparison. If you want to see the before and after of your color correction, you can click right here. If we go right here, you see this little FX, right? Now again, it tells you exactly what it does. So let's zoom out again. And if I do that, you can see the before and the after. So this is really great. This is super satisfying, especially if you're done color grading. Super satisfying to do this like 10 times. I'm guilty of that. I do that all the time. It's so good. But let's move on. Let's go back to the editing workspace. And then let's start with our title and animation. So titles are super easy in Premiere Pro as well. You just need to know how to do this. Now, the very easy way of adding a title to Premiere is by pressing T on your keyboard or clicking right here on the type tool. So I'm going to press T, and then as you can see, oh, I was going to point at my screen, but you can't see that. But as you can see, now you have this little cursor with this little, I don't know what that is called. But basically you can see that you can type something. So you click on your screen, so you get this red box, and then let's just say, since this is a gear review on YouTube and we have links in the description, let's just say link in description. Now what we can do is we can go to the effect controls. You also want to make sure that you have your selection tool back again. You can go to effect controls and then you can stylize your text right here. So in effect controls, you can go down here to text and you can stylize it right here. But what I actually want to show you is something that's way easier and way more useful, and that is the Essential Graphics panel. So let's go to Window, let's go up here to Window again, and then go to Essential Graphics. Now, as you can see, a panel will have opened up right here. Let's give Premiere Pro a second. Let me see if there's any other questions. Doesn't look like there's any other questions. That's great. That's cool. Okay. I'm gonna give Premiere Pro another second. My computer, like I said, it's code yellow in the Netherlands. So let me just go back to full screen so you could see me for a second. It's code yellow in the Netherlands. It's really hot. I don't know if you can see that I'm sweating. I am shimmering. So my computer is having a hard time as well. Okay, we're back. Cool. Okay, let's go back. So we have the Essential Graphics panel right here, and we have our text. Now what we want to do is we want to go to Edit, and then we see our text right here, and then we can change the size. We can change right here. As you can see, it is almost the same as here, but you just have these extra controls, and it's just a lot easier to use it here. So we could say, okay, we want it to be horizontally centered. We want, let's just choose an Adobe font. We could say, okay, we want a little bit bigger. We want it to be right there. The fill is great. Maybe we want to add like a little shadow. So we check shadow right here, and then we can click on it. So we open up this window, and then we can, I like it black. You can choose gray as well, but I always like it black. And then I want the distance to be a little bit like this. So this is what you could do, right? This is what you could do. And then and this is where the transitions come in. If you want, because right now, if we play through this, we're vlogging, it is small, it will just pop up. And that's great, but maybe you want it to slowly fade in. What you can do then is you can go here, you can click on your clip, you can go to effects, and this is where you'll find all the effects, all the video effects, whatever, everything you'll find here, audio effects as well. So for example, if you want to add some blur or a crop to your video, then you can just type it in, or you can look right here in video effects. But in this case, we want a video transition. So we're going to open up this folder right here, and then you could choose and you could say, okay, I want a wipe transition, for example, but let's not do that. What we can also do, here's two things that you can do. You can right click, let's just zoom in on the timeline like so. I'm also going to make these tracks smaller because we don't need those anymore. If we right click on this, and we go right here, it says apply default transitions. Now, if we do that, we now have a transition. It is small, it is where it slowly fades in. But here is an even better way. If you want to do this, if you want the text to fade in and you want it to fade out, what you can do is actually hit Control D or Command D, and now it will fade in and fade out. Now this works the exact same way with video clips. You could choose maybe between these two, you want a crossfade transition. You can right click on it, apply a default transition. Now as you can see, a transition has been applied. Now if you want this transition to be longer, for example, you could just click on it, and then you can just move it out, and now the transition will be a lot slower. Or if you want it super fast, you make it super short like this. You make it very small. And this works the same if you have another video transition. Let me just delete this transition. Just click on the transition and hit delete on your keyboard. Now let's say that we want dip to black. We can just click on this and then drag it right to these clips, and then let it go. And now, as you can see, it will dip to black, and we will come back to me. So that is a very nice way of using transitions. And then right here, you could also change duration, but you can also just drag this in and out if you want it to be longer or shorter. And this is just, it will show you how you can, let me see. Here, it will just show you how you can, I'm having a very hard time with English today. Whew. Here you can kind of like customize your transition. That's what I wanted to say. The alignment as well. I always say do it at center at cut, because that will mean that it's like this. If you choose start at cut, as you can see, it will start at the cut. So this way, it will not look that smooth. So I always prefer center at cut to have a really nice transition between the two. Now, what you see right here, don't worry about that. That is just the adjustment layer that we added earlier, but this is just for demonstration purposes. So that is how we would add like a static text. But here's the cool thing that I want to show you. If we still have the Essential Graphics panel open right here. If we go to Browse, again, we have Adobe Stock. So let's click on that. And like I said, Adobe Stock is not just songs. It is also like templates and music. That's what I just said. And videos and photos. But in this case, we want to use a template. So here's the cool thing. If you're super new to Premiere Pro, you're super new to editing, you can still make it look like you've actually been editing for years and you exactly know what you're doing, because the Adobe Stock offers so many templates, both for free and paid. If it's paid, you'll see the little $sign. And right here, you can click and select free if you want free ones. And then what you can do is you can just click on it and you can just hover over it. Look at that. I mean, how cool is that? You can just add that to your video and you will have a really cool promo or whatever you want to use. Now, in this case, let's say that we want to use a lower third. We want to promote our Instagram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in social. And now I'm going to get like a lot of templates, which are all free because I selected free. They're all free that I can use for my video. So I want this one. I've already used this one before. I want to use this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag and drop that on the timeline at the beginning. And then I'm going to go to the beginning of the timeline. And now we have a really cool lower third. Now, as you can see, it looks really blurry, and that is because right here, I have set my playback resolution to 1/4 of the total quality, because otherwise it just gets a little bit laggy sometimes. So don't worry about that. It's actually really good quality, as you can see right now. So what we can do is we can click on that lower third, go to edit, and then the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to change the text. So I'm going to say Instagram, and for text 2 right here, I am going to say Lila from YouTube, right? So now what you can see is it has automatically updated. But since it's Instagram, blue is more like a Twitter color, so you can change the color right here. I'm just gonna go for like a hot pink or something. And as you can see with text properties, you can change the font again, you can change the letter spacing, like so, as you can see. So there's tons of things that you can do. Now, you'll see, do you see this super weird thing right here? There's a circle and a triangle and a square. What is that? Well, that is actually something that's called like media replacement. And this is, again, I mean, Premiere Pro, it's so good, it's so easy. What we can do now is something that I've already imported into my project. So if we go back to project and we go to assets right here, we have this Instagram icon. Now, if we look right here, we see this same little icon, right? And that is the media replacement. So what we can do is we can just drag and drop this to here and then say use logo original color. And now we have our Instagram logo right there. So the only thing that's left to do right now is to change the main colors, because as you can see, they're still blue. So I'm just doing this super quickly, hot pink, and let's do like a purple or something and say okay. And now this is what we have. I mean, welcome to another video. I hope that you're doing well in this. What did I do? I didn't do anything. I just got like a free template from Adobe Stock and I changed the settings and I changed the text, or I didn't even change the settings. I just added my logo, I changed the text. It's super straightforward and it looks so good. Like this is the ultimate hack when it comes to making your videos look professional. Just use any of the templates right here in the Essential Graphics panel. Again, you can find it right here in Window and then go to Essential Graphics to open it up. It's brilliant. So now the last thing that we need to do is go to Effect Controls right here, and then just make it a little bit bigger and just change your position like so. Now I think that looks, I think we did a good job. So when we have our title and when we have our animation, let me close this Essential Graphics panel. What we're going to do is this is our final little sequence that we created. Let me first see if there is any questions. Felix, like magic. It's honestly, it's magic. It's so easy. Okay, we're almost there. I know we're a little bit over time, but we're almost there, and I do want to show you these last few things because they're definitely going to be helping you out, especially if you're making social media content like me. So here we have our final sequence, right? Let's just say that we want this YouTube video. Let's just pretend that this is an entire YouTube video, and we want to also turn it into an Instagram video because we want to promote it on Instagram. What we had to do was we had to create a new sequence, and we had to say, okay, the aspect ratio is 1:1. We want it to be a square, and then we would have to copy all of these things, and we would have to paste it into the new sequence. We would have to resize it, reposition it. It was like, I wasn't really motivated to do that. But since 2 years ago, I think now, almost 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, they introduced something that's called Auto Reframe. Now, Auto Reframe is powered by Adobe Sensei, which is basically like a machine learning, artificial intelligence genie. And what it does is it does it for you. So it automatically reframes everything for you. So in order to do that, what you would do is you would go to Project, Sequence, and then in this case we have Final, right? Like this is our final clip. If we right click on that, let me first zoom in a little bit. If we right click on that, we could click on Auto Reframe Sequence right here. So right click on your clip and then go up here to Auto Reframe Sequence. Then this window will pop up, and here you can choose your sequence name. I'm just going to keep it like this. You could choose your target aspect ratio, which is a square. You could also choose vertical if you want to, or horizontal, or vertical 4:5, which is for Instagram feeds. Vertical 9:16 is for TikToks and for Instagram stories. But in this case, let's go for square. Now, when it comes to tracking, if there is a lot of motion, you could say, for example, if you're editing like a sports commercial or something with like basketball or hockey or soccer, you could say, okay, I want to use like faster motion because there's a lot of fast motion in my video clip. On the other hand, if there is very slow motion, if you're just sitting down the entire time like I'm doing, but I have a little bit of B-roll sequence, you could choose slower motion. I'm just going to go for default, and I'm going to hit Create. So now we need to give Premiere Pro or Adobe Sensei a little bit of time to automatically reframe our clips. But this honestly is so much easier than having to do the entire thing by yourself. I feel like this is one of those features that you need to know about, just like the audio ducking feature. This is another feature that you really need to know about. So now, as you can see, it has automatically reframed everything, which is great, right? Looks good, everything looks good. Now maybe you want to increase the size of the title, so just click on the title layer right here, and then just increase the scale if you want to. It disappears, so you can just up the position a little bit, or you can of course change the size of your text right here, and I'll change the scale. This is how you would automatically reframe a video, and now your video is ready to go. It's ready to be exported and be put on YouTube. You can put it on social media, on Instagram or whatever. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing that I want to show you is up here, we have a little quick export button. And if we click on that, we can choose the name and the location of our exported file, and there are some presets that we can choose. Now, these presets are all suggestions that are optimized for web. But what I actually want to show you is how to do this, how to export it like traditionally, because that is where you can actually change all the settings, and you have a lot more control over it than just using a preset. So make sure when you want to export a video, make sure that you have the sequence selected, because otherwise if I'm going to click on this, let's just do that. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export, and then I hit Media. Oh, it actually works. Let's click on this one. It shouldn't work, but actually it works. Usually it doesn't. Export, Media, it doesn't work, right? Now I think because this one is linked to this, it works, but normally if it doesn't work, basically that's what I'm trying to say. If it doesn't work, make sure that you click on your sequence, go to File, go to Export, go to Media, or Control M, as you saw. Let me just show you that really quickly again. Control M, again, another shortcut that's really useful. And then the export window will open up. Now, so many settings. We aren't going to go through everything because, again, this is a webinar for beginners. We're covering the basics. So what I want you to do is I want you to go to presets right here. And then what I want you to do is, for example, if you're uploading it on YouTube, there's actually a YouTube preset right here. If you're using it on Twitter presets, there is so many presets. Now, if you're uploading your video to, if you're making a TikTok, for example, or an Instagram story, or an Instagram feed video, what I would recommend is to use the Match Source Adaptive High Bitrate. That is the best option for those videos. In my experience, there may be a better option out there, I'm not sure, but in my experience, this is the best option for that. Now, this is a YouTube video, so let's just go to YouTube. Let's say 1080p, although it's 4K, but let's just say 1080p. And then just make sure that right here with the blue name, you can click on it and you can choose a name. Just gonna leave it like this, but it will open up the window explorer. And here, make sure that you have your video and audio ticked, because if you're spending some time waiting for your video to be exported, you don't want to find out that you don't have the video or you don't have the audio. And then here you have so many options, but honestly, it's good. Just use the preset. There is a lot of settings if you want to learn more about that. There is a lot of resources out there, including my own channel. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the export button. What you can do is you can hit export, but then what happens is it will export inside Premiere Pro. So that means if as you can see, I didn't license the audio, so I cannot really use the song, so I cannot really export it right now. But if I were to export this, let's just say export, it's gonna take time. I cannot use Premiere Pro right now, right? So if I want to break, that's great. But if you have other projects, if you have clients waiting for you, then let's just hit cancel. What we can do instead is we can click right here on Q, and that will open up the media encoder. So I'm just going to take a second for that to open up. And meanwhile, let me see if there is a question. Yeah, okay, about the red and the yellow line, let me just quickly, as the media encoder is opening up, let me just go back to Premiere Pro. Basically what this means, this red line, right? Excuse me. It's, okay, the red line here, right? What this means is that Premiere Pro will have a very hard time playing this back smoothly. So what this means is that it's going to look very choppy, which is a reason or a way to combat that is by going right here to the playback resolution, which I just talked about when I showed the lower third, and then you can just lower it right here. But sometimes it will still look super laggy. So what you can do is you can actually render this if you want. So that means that Premiere Pro will take care of this bit, and if we can create a selection by hitting I and O on our keyboard again to make a selection right here. You can go to sequence, and then you can say render into out. And I'm not going to do that right now because that would take a second. But basically what it does is it will load all of the previews for you. So then this entire bit will be super smooth. And yellow is kind of like, we can play this, but it could be a little bit laggy, but we can play this. And then if it's green, then, you know, it's super smooth and it's rendered and it's good to go. So we have our media encoder right here, right? Now, if we want to, I want to export this video. So I'm going to press right here on that green button. And now I can go and I can edit another video in Premiere Pro while my other video is exporting. Now, I hope that this all made sense. I am so sorry that this workshop took way longer than I said, but I just wanted to make sure that we covered everything and that I took the time for your questions and to really make sure that everything was as clear as it can be. So let me see if there's one last question before I go. Dylan, hey Lila, thank you so much for the video. Got to take off. Thanks Adobe for doing these. Yes, well, thank you so much for being here. With all that being said, I am going to say goodbye as well. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that this webinar was super useful. Make sure that if it was useful that you give it a thumbs up so YouTube knows that this was a good webinar and other people can also benefit from this webinar. My name is Lila. If you have any questions, the Adobe team will be ready for you to answer any questions on Twitter. Just go to @AdobeCare. And if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, then make sure to either tag me or hit me up on Instagram or Twitter @Lila from YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see ya next time.